Hello, welcome back again. So we're going to cover today just the basics of running the model. So as you can see here, I've already ran this model here for the June 2018 forecast. And as you can see, when the model runs and after it completes, these reports turn green. That means that they finished running. Now, there are some reports sometimes that have different colors. Like for example, they turn like this kind of orangish color. That's because I have some formulas in here that check to see if certain things are correct. It's some form of validation. And there's a formula in here that says highlight the report orange if something is wrong. Now there's probably nothing really wrong with this report. I think this is just something that we're trying to work through, is that maybe that formula needs to be updated so that it's not throwing off a validation error. Same thing here. This one is a validation error. This is a report that we're still working on trying to figure out how to validate certain posting validations for a report that we send to BAG. We just gotta make sure that before we publish things to like SBase or HFM, that we make sure that when we're loading is still tying out, and that now we're not posting in incorrect areas. So anyways, there's some validation in here, and these are probably the only other two reports that I know of that probably have validations in them. Now we can build other validations in the report, and so that could create different colors. There are other different colors you can choose from besides orange and red, but obviously orange and red obviously create some kind of like urgency. Orange means medium concern, maybe red means extreme concern. But don't worry about these if you see them. But you can contact your administrator if these and ask them if these colors are a problem or not. But anyways, typically when you run reports, they are usually green, and that means that that everything is good. And when these validations come back as false or negative, then they should be green again. So now I'll show you how we run the model. So once you come to this run sequence set, you just hit this button called compile and run. Now before you hit compile and run, I just wanted to kind of cover how that you need to make sure that certain reports are checked. Now when you come here the first time to run sequence sets, you'll notice that almost all of these boxes are checked. So this box here at the very top of each sequence set is checked. Each report within each sequence set is checked. And that just means that when we hit this compile and run button, it's going to run all those. Now, you can turn off certain sections, and for some of you that's very important to do, because maybe you don't need to see information in the third or fourth sequence, for example. In that case, you can just turn it off by just checking up here, and that will unselect or select all of the items within that sequence. You can do the same thing for the fourth one. You can also unselect and then just select a few that you want to run. So it could be like, I only care about Pershing and Hawthorne, or just transmission revenue, and I just want to see what the results of that. In some cases, you might want to have a lot higher selection than that. For those that are in the rates and revenue department, you have a lot more reports than just one or two. We actually have been working on a project where we're trying to narrow the selection down to just the ones that you need to run. Now, when we have this set on the select set sequence subset, that means it'll select all of them, right? But there's a subset that we have here that's just for revenue. As you can see, this gives us all the revenue items that we want to run for this sequence within the MVE sequence set. It doesn't necessarily mean that it deleted any of those other reports. It just selected a different group of them. And this is just a way to toggle between all of them or some of them. And for some of you other groups out there that might need some of this functionality, just let your admin know, and he can set up this subset for you so that only the reports that you need to run are kind of here. So it kind of gives you a quick selection that you can run. So once you have the selection that you want to have, we'll just do this one just to show you real quick, because this one will run really fast. This one, obviously, the more reports you select, the longer it runs. In this case, the model currently runs, when we're just doing a simple 10-year fall plan scenario. So we were doing basically 1 year for the current year, which might have a mix of actuals and forecasts, and then plus 10 more years. And that's pretty much doing it for pretty much all of these reports. And when that runs, it usually takes about 5 minutes to run. But because we select this, it's probably going to run in less than half that time. So we'll go ahead and hit this button real quick. And we hit compile and run. The first thing you'll notice is that if you have this dialog box, this Java console that's showing up, it'll show you that the model is thinking. And usually what it's doing when you first hit that button is going out and initially finding all of the data that is connected to all of these reports and just dumping it into your RAM, which is on your computer. And once it compiles all that information, it's going to then start running from here, the first report, and go down. And if it succeeds in one pass, it'll just say one pass. Now you'll notice that once we get this thing going, that we'll get to the second sequence, and it'll actually iterate, go through it more than once. The reason for that is because sometimes we have some of these reports that are interdependent. So like if one changes, then the other one changes, and if that one changes, the other one changes, or the one previous changes again. So he's going back and forth, and that's mainly due to like deferred energy, for example, wholesale revenue liberty, because it depends on energy rates, and just feeding that thing back through every time. And you see that one actually happened pretty fast. Let me go back. And if you ever wanted to really know how long it takes for a model to run, if you wait until the model is run and you don't do anything else, you can see right here that it counts how many milliseconds that is. And since I'm not too savvy in converting that for you, that is less than a minute that it took for that thing to run. And you guys actually saw that it actually ran pretty fast. So for those folks in the revenue, it'd be a lot easier for you to run just this subset than to run the whole model. Even if just running just the first and second sequence of the main sequence, it would be a little longer. As you can see here, you see how many less reports that was compared to all the reports that are running for this model. And that's mainly because like in the first and second sequence, one of the reports that tend to take the longest are like capital, OMAG. Those reports tend to take up a lot of time in running, which will probably take about 2 minutes of the whole 5 minutes of this model running. So that concludes our video for today, and that's how you can run the model. See you next time.